Hope you're having a good day. For this video and the next 4 videos, we're going to be covering something I like to call the 5 schools of thought for lead gen. Now, lead gen can be, again, this broad, intimidating concept. These 5 schools of thought help us get a little more specific with components of our sphere and the way we can look at them. Now, the goal is not necessarily to master all 5 of these schools of thought. If you can, hats off to you, Rockstar. But more than anything, it's to find what works for you. We're not all wired the same way, and some people have mastered lead gen in different ways from one realtor to the next. So hopefully, with these different schools of thought, you can identify these different ways to focus your lead gen efforts, give every single one of them a try, and find out what might be working for you naturally. And again, if you can get business from all 5, I think that is the rockstar dream, but certainly not a necessity. So the first school of thought for lead gen, a way to get more specific with our direction, is the school of thought when it comes to open houses. Now, open houses, whether it's your own, one from your teams, whether it's your first and only client you have, or it's one of countless houses that you're working with, it is a prime opportunity to not just market that particular home, but also to meet people who are in some way, shape, or form raising their hands with some varying degree of real estate interest. Now, it's up to you to work the open house and not only do the house itself justice, but also it's on you to connect with the people, learn their story, and find people that you could serve and eventually have as clients. Open houses are great, again, because you have people who are expressing some level of interest in real estate. That does not mean that all of them are bona fide clients in the waiting. So we're going to cover some quick tips and tricks for how to crush it in the pre-open house part of open houses. We're going to talk some really intentional strategy at the open house geared towards how to connect with the attendees. And then we're going to wrap with post-open house. What do you do to make sure you exit that mode effectively? So let's get started here with that pre-open house process, some tips and tricks. Now, a lot of times in real estate, we're flying by the seat of our pants and we wake up and it's time for an open house and we rush to it and we don't let ourselves plan. And this is all about letting yourself have a plan. What can be so crucial, again, whether it's your first house or one of many you've been seeing, give yourself time to get familiar with the house. Even if you've been in there once before, get your stats, get those facts, show up early as part of your homework you're going to do before the open house. If you're on time to the open house, consider yourself late. Heck, I've had people show up to an open house 15 minutes before it started, right when I was getting there, and lo and behold, I don't have time to get set up because, hey, I got 2 or 3 cars who are ready to come right in whenever I open the door. So the earlier the better. 20, 30 minutes, dare I say, to really get yourself in the headspace. And some might say that's too long. Your discretion, you know your market. If there's a lot of times people show up early, show up before them, get yourself settled, and make sure you do your homework while walking through the house. It's great to do it before you're in the house, and then get in the physical space, walk through, make sure you're familiar with the spacing, how the square footage is spread out, where everything is. Now you know where you're at, you know the floor plan, you're familiar with where you're going to be for the next hour to hour and a half, maybe longer. Now it's time to establish a check-in station. But you should identify your command center. Where are you going to be so when people walk in, they must interact with you? And what can be so crucial is that you also have them check in. You have a sign-in sheet. Mastering the art of the sign-in sheet is crucial. Some are not going to be okay with it unless you can justify a good reason for the sign-in sheet. In the past, one justification has been that there has been, in the past, burglaries at open houses. Medication, personal belongings have been taken from open houses. Well, as someone working at this open house or the homeowner is letting us be present, we want a list of everyone coming and going in case something is missing after the open house so we can reach out to people. That's us representing the safety and security of the homeowners effectively. That's a standard we should uphold and insist upon. And I think that should be good justification for people to sign in. In this day and age, in this current time we're recording this, we're in the thick of a pandemic. Hopefully that thing ends sooner than later. Maybe by the time you're watching this, it's all wrapped up. If so, tell me how it is. I hope it's amazing. But if there is an outbreak, if there's an issue, someone gets sick, oh my gosh, maybe they're at the open house, maybe the homeowner gets sick. Wouldn't it be nice to have a list of people for you to notify to say maybe you should get yourself checked? That's being a responsible, helpful individual for others. Whatever the reason, there's a good justification to ask people to sign in so you can check in with them for various reasons. Now you immediately can put to bed their fear of spam and constant bugging by just saying, yeah, you know, I agree to not spam you. I won't reach out to you unless you want me to. And that's a crucial statement, unless you want me to. So, you got to do your homework. You got to show up early. Make sure you understand the space. You got to pick that sign-in station, that command center, that check-in station, whatever you want to call it. And now, one thing you should consider, and this is probably well before the other things I've told you about, you should think about how you can make your open house more unique than other open houses. How can you make it more comfortable? How can you create an icebreaker? How can you have it set itself aside from the typical open house? Now, a lot of people think a gift card drawing, and that could very well work and has worked, but how else could you do this thing? Is there certain music that you could play? Could you play DJ for people? Could you make a game out of the space, like a scavenger hunt? Could you make sure you have a couple movie options if possible for kids? Say, hey, your kids can park right here. There's a movie on for them to just enjoy. What else could you do that's tied to your brand that we talked about in previous videos? Is there anything brand specific you could use to make sure your open house is memorable for people? So before anything else, have you identified your unique strategy for open houses? Consider using your brand. That's a good leading point to say, what could I do that I'll enjoy, that hopefully others will enjoy too? That's just pre-open house. Those are just some pre-open house tips for you. What about while you're at the open house? Here's where it really is time to perform. You're there, you know the house, you're ready to answer questions, you have the sign-in sheet and the justification, you have your unique whatever it is to stand out, but really this is about relationship building now. So, when someone walks in, how do you know they need your help? How can you find out if this person needs your assistance or not? Because you're going to meet people who are nosy neighbors, who are just interested in seeing what's going on, and that's it. You're going to have people who walk in who are nice enough that are already working with a realtor. You're going to have people walk in who are timid first-time home buyers who aren't sure where to start. You're going to have people who come in with a poor opinion of realtors that could definitely use your help though. So say you're at an open house, you have multiple people coming in, how can you filter out who's who to the best of your ability? Well, here's your first tip at the open house when it's time to perform. Filter questions. You need to practice the art of filter questions. The first few things you ask an open house attendee. What does that sound like? Come on in, welcome to the open house. What's your name? I'm so-and-so, in this case, Connor Johnson. What brings you out today? How did you hear about us? Did your realtor send you out? You see what we do there? We ask how they heard about us, and we throw in there, did their realtor tell them to come to the open house? Another way to do that. Welcome to the open house. What's your name? Pleasure to meet you. Come on in. Here to answer any questions you have. Curious if there's anything I can help you with. What's motivating you to come out today? And before I'm ready to help you out with anything really quick, do you have a realtor helping you out who can answer any of the in-depth questions about this property or the process? Super straightforward and confident. Just straight up owning the fact that you're wondering if they have a realtor that's helping them out. Short of them just lying to your face, you're going to get some sort of standing with these people right then and there. And if you find out they already have a realtor, all right, you're there to answer any questions they have, but you do not have to be more proactive than you need to be. They have a realtor who can represent their interests. You don't have to worry about that as much. You're there to run the open house. Now you find out they do not have a realtor. Okay. Now if they again tell you that they're just nosy, they're down the street and they're loving their house and they'll never sell until they're too old and need to downsize, which won't be for another 30 years, okay. Now if they say they don't have a realtor, they don't say anything like that, they just say, yeah, we have a list of houses, we're just seeing what's out there on the market, there's potential there, there's something to dig into. People's responses will be different, but if you can filter out some of the people who definitely aren't going to be making a real estate move anytime soon and the people who are definitely represented, we can fine-tune who we need to engage with a little more. Starts with filter questions early on. Your nightmare scenario is as you follow someone around the house for an entire 45 minutes having a pleasant conversation which makes you feel good, and at the end of the conversation you find out they have a realtor. At least you had a great conversation, but there's nothing that will come of that. And that entire time there were 3 to 4 couples coming and going, and the best you could say is, hi, I'll be with you in a minute, and they left before you could get to them. Just because that one conversation was feeling so good. You want to try to avoid that to the best of our ability with filter questions. Now, if that's 1A of our tips, this is 1B. We call this the Ford visual search. Ford, again, is an acronym. Family, occupation, recreation, dreams, things about people. Now, as someone's walking up, as someone walks in, can you see their car? Can you see what they're wearing? Obviously, you'll be able to see what they're wearing. Just be proactive. Make note of that. There could be clues they're giving you based on what you see. One of my very first open house clients, this one was like a softball, they were wearing a Minnesota Vikings jersey and I was rocking my Green Bay Packers polo, and the banter right then and there, I just dove into a joke of slamming the door in their face, and they had a good laugh, I had a good laugh, because obviously they saw I was a Packers fan, and the ice was just broken based on something about them. So anything you can visually spot that's Ford related, right, can help you have a good conversation starter. Now, a lot of times there won't be anything visual to work with, and it's just some good old question asking. You know, are you from the area? Is it just you looking? Do you have any kids at home? Practicing good old Ford-based questions at an open house. Something we'll be covering down the road, how to crush it with Ford-based question asking. Words are tough. And combining that with concepts like tell me more and going 3 deep. Again, I'm getting ahead of myself. But we'll practice the art of this good question asking. Part of this question asking is to learn about them, again, find Ford facts that you might be able to connect with them over. But also part of your question asking should certainly be about the property they're looking at. And by that I mean, what about this house do you like? What are you looking for in the ideal house? Is there anything that's a must-have for what you're searching for? Now, what people say will vary, but any information you can get from them can be a gem to know that they have some sort of search criteria. If you can understand that while connecting with them relationally, not only are you going to be able to show value with that relationship, but also you can take any nuggets you can about the house and use it later on with this next bit of advice we're going to give you. And that's to show value. You're going to show value either with what you've learned from your Ford questions, or you could use any house criteria you've learned from them, and you could go and run a search on properties that are currently on the market that fit some of that criteria. Time to close down the open house. Let's just make sure we cover some good practices. You want to make sure all the lights are off unless told otherwise. You want to make sure the doors are locked. And here's the thing, you might be confident you already locked them all. Give yourself a double check. We're flawed, we're not perfect. Sometimes things get forgotten and you have a very upset homeowner. So practice the art of the double check for everything. And now as you leave the open house, here's something you should do before the needs of the rest of your day distract you. Get into your car, be it in the driveway or on the street, and before you put that into drive, make it a point to provide feedback to the homeowner. And if not the homeowner, the listing agent. I think it'll be pretty clear who wants the feedback before you're at the open house. But what you want to do is make sure you do provide quality service to the open house homeowner. We focused a lot on how you connect with people and find leads, but you're definitely still looking for feedback from these people and saying, hey, what's good or bad about the house? Be honest. Tell me about the house before you go. You want to give that feedback, not sugar-coated to the homeowners. If you are good at this thing, never worry about sugarcoating it. And if you are worried about it, ask the homeowners, hey, do you want me to sugarcoat this or not? Shockingly, almost all of them are going to say, yeah, don't sugarcoat it, tell me what people are saying. Now you have permission to give good, sincere feedback to the homeowner or listing agent. Now you have that checked off. You've been a good communicator to the real estate community, to homeowners, brownie points for you. Before you start driving, here's something else you need to do. Look at that list of sign-ins. All the people who attended your open house. Review it. There's going to be some people on there who have a realtor, who really aren't serious, and people who just you could not get anything out of. Okay, let's get those ones crossed off. But what about the couple of sincere, legit conversations you had with people? You learned about the first-time home buyers and how they don't know where to start and they're starting to get their feet wet. And off of your conversation, they gave you permission to follow up with them. Okay, you can use that. You also had the other couple who were giving you a bit of the cold shoulder, but you got some home criteria from them. You showed them some comparable properties based on that criteria, and they said they'd be willing to let you send them some of these properties and maybe set up a showing later. Okay, you got 2 people to for sure follow up with. You got to schedule that follow-up and make sure you don't forget. Be it later that day or at the latest, if your open houses are typically on Sundays, Monday morning. Schedule your follow-up for your open house leads. Do not let them fall between the cracks. If an open house lead gets past 24 hours without communication, consider it gone. You are but a twinkle in the eye to them of all these different realtors they've been meeting at open houses. You got to stay in front of them, and you got to stay in front of them immediately. Open houses can be tricky, but they can be very rewarding and often are the source of our very first deals when we're starting out. So I wish you good luck and hope you have a great time when you work your next open house.